Our next guest, Jane Fonda, is an icon, a two-time Academy Award-winning actor, producer, author, activist, fitness guru, and badass. She famously celebrated her 82nd birthday in a jail cell protesting fossil fuels, and now at 88, she's on a mission to protect a stable climate and a stable democracy.
Right now, especially, we have to become living ambassadors to an irresistible future. We can't just be against. We have to be like the future we're fighting for.
But first, hi, I'm Charles Loy. My friends and I made an Emmy-winning series on PBS called Climate California. What we found gave me hope. It's not too late. Climate change is solvable, whether it's by limiting warming or adapting to it. I talked to some of the visionaries who are leading the way, and they just might change how you see your role in this fight. So subscribe or follow. From NorCal Public Media, this is A Fighting Chance. A Fighting Chance is a presentation of the Center for Environmental Reporting with financial support from the estate of Claire Etienne. Jane Fonda has been at work for over 50 years, making more than 50 films and organizing for political causes such as women's rights, indigenous rights, and now climate change and democracy. In 2022, she launched the Jane Fonda Climate PAC, which has helped climate candidates win hundreds of elections nationwide. I zoomed with Jane at the end of a long day of interviews for her documentary Gaslit, where she follows the fracking supply chain on a road trip from Texan oil fields to the Gulf Coast. And along the way, she exposed the true cost of what was advertised to us as the miracle of LNG, liquefied natural gas.
You know, these are stories that I've heard for years in different parts of this country and in other parts of the world. The people that live in what the oil companies call sacrifice zones. And they're poor. They may be poor and white, or they're people of color, or they're Black people, or they're indigenous people. These are BIPOC communities. And what moves me so deeply is they're fighting. They're actually fighting. Even the woman that's missing half her neck because of cancer from the plastics. And, you know, there's a woman, I just admire her so much, Diane Wilson. She's 5 children. And yet she has been a full-out activist for over 30 years, and she doesn't stop. And she's discovered that hunger strikes are a good way to go because they don't know what to do with somebody that's on a hunger strike. It changes the ether. It works. She just doesn't give up. I just admire her so much. This all happened during the Obama administration because they discovered fracking and horizontal drilling. They go down and then they go horizontally, and they put chemicals in there, and then they put explosives, and the explosives break open the rock. The chemicals go into the fissures and break all the rocks apart, and then they go in and they get the gas and the oil out, and it destroys everything. It destroys nature. It pollutes water. It releases methane gas, which is 80 times more dangerous in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. It doesn't last as long, 20 years, but that's all the time we have if we're not going to do something about this. In the Pecos region of Texas, where they do the fracking, I looked at these huge tanks. I said, Sharon, what's the big deal? You know, beautiful sky, all these tanks. Then she gave me her camera. And when I looked through the camera, I almost dropped the camera. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What had been beautiful blue sky and nice clean tanks, there were billows of smoke, of gas, hundreds of feet in the air, clouds of gas. This is methane escaping from the tanks. But you can't see it, you know, so they can just tell the average person or the average reporter, no. But she's proving what's coming out there. It's the most dangerous job in the United States. She said she's seen workers, they walk up the steep ladder, up the side of the metal stairs, up the side of the tanks. They go to the top. They're manually releasing the valve. The gas comes off and the guy just drops dead right there. It's so potent that he drops dead right there. Here's the thing. You could do it with a machine. They don't have to open it manually. But the technology that they'd have to use to avoid opening it manually costs a little money. You know, it might eat up 1% into their profits. Their profits are over $4 trillion. Oh, no, they can't do that. Instead, they sacrifice their workers. I mean, and it goes on and on and on. You know, I'm in New York now. You could sit in a fancy restaurant and look at all the rich people walking and the food they're eating and the cars that drive them and all the fanciness. And then as I was standing in the Permian Basin, I thought, all of that happens because of what they're doing here. This underbelly of wealth, this is what fuels an, a non-sustainable lifestyle. This is what's really going on. I wanted to do the movie because I wanted people to see what goes into making an affluent, wildly over-consuming society possible. Death, cancer, the destruction of nature upon which we rely for our lives, the destruction of the Gulf of Mexico, the fishermen, the oystermen, the clams, people, it's gone. You can't earn a living anymore.
Watching your movie Gaslit, it really makes me think about the role of artists in society. I'm a filmmaker, and I feel like I remember when I was younger that the job of the artist is to hold a mirror up to society, to make the invisible visible. And I think this is why people admire you so much, because you really take that seriously. Have you evolved in your thinking of your role as an artist?
I had the idea last October to start a new committee for the First Amendment as a way to organize the entertainment industry writ large. It's very important because throughout history, authoritarians first go for the arts and the universities. Why? We get into people's heads. We bypass words, we go into people's hearts, and we can create empathy for people who've been marginalized. We can create feeling across difference. We can create a sense of an alternative future. It doesn't have to be the way this tyrant is saying. We could have a beautiful future like this. We can show alternatives. We can expose the so-called dictator for being the naked emperor that he really is. You know, comedians are the most potent weapon we have because ridicule and authoritarianism, they can't coexist at all. Movie stars and television stars, people who come into people's living rooms and homes and hearts and minds on a regular basis, we can model courage, and courage is contagious. When people don't quite know what to do in a given situation and they see a Tom Hanks or a Julia Roberts or a me saying, this is really bad, this could really hurt us, we have to resist this. You know, they're, oh, okay. We're criticized for, oh, shut up, you're just an actor. But the reason they attack us so much is because we have an influence the way all artists do. I became an activist in 1970. I was about 33 years old. And up until then, I'd had a very, a pretty empty life. It was pretty hedonistic. On some level, I knew that if I find out what the war in Vietnam really is, my life is going to change. So I avoided knowing. But I was pregnant. And when a woman is pregnant, she's like a sponge. She picks up everything. And this was 1968, and I was pregnant, and there was the Tet Offensive, and there were American soldiers in Vietnam who came to Paris because they didn't believe in the war anymore. And they found me. They were looking for Americans who could help them find a dentist or buy a new pair of shoes or whatever. A group of them found me, and it was they that made me understand the reality of the Vietnam War. So I moved back to the States and I joined the GI movement. And at the time there were around 25 coffee houses. They were called GI coffee houses. They had record album covers on the walls, and they were fun places that the guys liked to come to, and they would learn about the history of Vietnam and so forth. And they were mostly run by women. And there were those women. I had never met people like them. My whole life had been, prior to that, had been spent with people who were very judgmental. Was I
Mm,
thin enough? Was I pretty enough? Was my hair right? I mean, a lot of judging about superficial things.
mm,
And suddenly I was with a group of people that never entered their thoughts, much less what they ever said or judged. I felt safe. I felt seen. I felt respected.
mm.
Um, it was like I said to myself, it's like looking through a keyhole at a future that we're fighting for. And I thought then, this is the tribe I want to belong to.
Mm.
So I talk about this now because I think right now, especially, we have to become living ambassadors to an irresistible future. We can't just be against. We have to be like the future we're fighting for and give people hope. We're not going back. It's not like we want to go back to some democracy that was so great. There were way too many people left out. We need a true multiracial democracy that includes economic democracy, um, with a government that really cares and respects its people. And I have been in countries like in Norway and Canada in the 80s, and people were different there because of this. They were like river rock that have been smoothed. The edges were smoothed. It was beautiful. There was solidarity. It wasn't individualistic competition. That really, really stuck with me. We have to become like that.
On a personal note, I wanted to thank you for your activism on Vietnam. My parents are from Vietnam, um, Chinese Vietnamese. So when I
What
look,
part of Vietnam?
Saigon,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
they're in like the Chinese area of Saigon. Oh, you should visit Ho Chi Minh. It's like a really interesting city now. I visited Vietnam a few years ago, my first time, and a part of me healed by being there
Mm.
because I'd only heard about all the horror stories and all the bad stuff.
Oh,
Um,
it's the greatest. Oh,
yeah,
the things that happened to me there changed my life forever. I mean, here it's changed now. But then, like in North Vietnam, there was no heavy equipment. So
mm,
that when we destroyed for example, the Black Ma Hospital, they had to rebuild it with their hands. I saw this happening. These were peasants, these were fishermen, these were, you know, and they won.
mm,
And that has to stop us in our track, us Americans.
mm.
Oh, what? Well, then what is strength? I had to totally reevaluate what it means to be strong. And I had the most extraordinary life-altering experiences there. I don't regret anything, nothing, none of the price I had to pay as a result of the mistakes that I made and everything. They were all worth it, given what Vietnam did for me.
If I can like thread your Vietnam activism to what you're doing today on climate, there's this like critique of globalization, critique of imperialism, anti-extraction. Is that a correct read of what you do?
We're facing two existential crises,
Mm,
democracy and climate, and
yeah.
they're totally interconnected. And the clock on climate is ticking. We can't solve one without the other. That's why this Trump issue is so urgent, because we have to overcome him and the MAGA movement and what they're doing, which is flying in the face of what science is saying. They're opening everything up to deforestation. They're killing our forests. They're polluting our air. They're opening up all the coal mines and the drilling. We have lost the realization that we're part of nature. We don't control it. It provides us life. Without it, we don't have life. And it's not just the trees and the oxygen and the ocean, it's the other animals. When they go, we go. So there's an urgency that has never existed before. We've never had an authoritarian breakthrough either. But to have it happen at the same time as an existential climate crisis is a true disaster.
Yeah, and you're doing something about it. Jane Pack has been fundraising and supporting candidates all across the board, especially down ballot.
Until this year, entirely down ballot. Now, some of our
Mhm.
candidates have gone to Congress, but because right now, this is what's strategic is down ballot. I mean, now we have to take back the House and Senate, but down ballot, people don't often vote all the way down ballot, and that's critical. You know, the power that the board of a public utility has in determining whether a community is going to be resilient or not. The power of the county executive or the public land commissioner, city council, state legislators, boards of supervisors, school boards, all of these positions hold tremendous power in deciding, is there going to be a pipeline coming through? Is there going to be a toxic dump in that place to turn that into a sacrifice zone? We're also building a firewall against what's coming from the federal government. We're slowing down what Trump is trying to do, and we're building a deep bench for the Democratic Party. The kinds of people that we're electing are the kind of people that I met when I first became an activist. They have to have shown before they ever got elected that they're brave. They have to have shown they've stood up publicly against the fossil fuel industry. They can't take money from the fossil fuel industry. They can't just blanket approve data centers, you know, or SMRs, small modular reactors, and so forth. And there's so many of them, and they're so brave. It's what fills me with hope.
I wonder if there's like room for collaboration or cooperation between
Oh,
liberals and conservatives, break apart partisanship and
right.
allow for us to come together as a people.
We'd be trying to elect Republicans if we came upon Republicans who were fighting against the climate crisis. We just
Mhm.
can't find any. But in terms of the Committee for the First Amendment, we have Republicans on our committee. And, you know, Catherine Hayhoe, she's one of the leading speakers on the climate crisis, and she's a evangelical Christian climate scientist. She's great. We have to work together. We have to break down these silos. You know, the reason I do talk a lot to people about we have to be living ambassadors to the future we're fighting for and speak to people who we don't agree with and who think that we're the enemy, but we're not. We have to be together or we're not going to survive. We all do well when we all do well.
Yeah, yeah,
All of us. Yeah.
yeah. A society where everyone is thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
also the other thing that happens is when we all do well, violence goes down.
yeah. What is your version of utopia?
I don't know if there's such a thing as utopia, but the first thing is we have a government that truly serves people. We have a government that takes care of us. Parental leave is obligatory, and it's men and women, and they're paid. You know, this is what happens in countries that where the governments care about people. We have to feel safe, which means people have to be doing well. We're not safe when some people feel they've been left behind, that they're not seen, that they're not respected. We want to be loved and respected. We have to have air that we can breathe safely, water that we can drink safely. Buildings need to go up so that there's plenty of green for animals, the other sentient creatures on this planet, water, nature, access to all that. We have to live near where we work. We have to, you know, there's a community in California, Village Homes, it's called. People live in tall homes, roads, the concrete is narrow because it reflects heat to kind of reduce the heat. The certain people who live there run the gardens that feed people. There's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's rich, there's poor, there's everybody there, but everybody has a role. There's a real sense of community. This is what Minneapolis and St. Paul has taught us. We have to know our neighbors. We have to take care of each other. We all have to have a place to live. And because, well, right now there's more than 8 billion of us. When I was born, there was only 2 billion. When we're told that by mid-century, there'll be 10 billion. If everybody's going to have a home, it's got to go up because
Mhm.
we have to allow nature to survive. And we know how to do it. You build buildings that withstand hurricanes and tornadoes and things. You build buildings that don't need a lot of air conditioning and heating, that, the technology is there. We have to change the capitalist system. That's the first time those words have come out of my mouth because it's too much for people. Oh, she's a communist. No, I'm not. There's another way. And maybe there is a way to make capitalism benign, but any economic system that depends on perpetual growth, constant growth, is not sustainable. But especially now, because this is late stage capitalism, it's not I have more than you, it's we both have enough. Enough is enough. Those are some of the things that I would want to be part of my exquisite, irresistible future.
Talking to Jane got me thinking about the nature of fame and celebrity culture. We're now in the age of parasocial relationships, where we form a one-sided connection to the people that we see on our screens or hear on our podcasts. But we don't actually know them in real life. And what I think Jane is doing is leveraging that connection that we feel with her to connect us to each other. However messily the Vietnam War ended, Jane explains that she was trying to connect the American people to the Vietnamese being bombed on the other side of the Pacific. Now, by showing us the costs of fracking, she's trying to connect consumers to sacrifice communities. We say she's an icon. What are icons for? But to rally people around a cause. Icons are still people though, and it wasn't always easy for her. When we come back, Jane reflects on her life as an activist, and how speaking out enriched her life more than it cost her. If you're listening to this podcast, we do have a lovely video version. You can watch it or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you do become a member of NorCal Public Media. For as little as the cost of 2 lattes, you can sustain public media and give us a fighting chance at season 2. Go to norcalpublicmedia.org/donate. Thanks.
I've been hearing for decades that the markets can solve climate change. Today, we have more incentives for market solutions than ever, and emissions are rising. On this season of Drilled, Carbon Cowboys, the story of 3 market solutions colliding in one multinational boondoggle.
You gotta give Bruce and the guys credit. They're Republicans. They don't give a shit about any of this stuff.
Listen anywhere you get podcasts.
At an age when most people retire, Jane Fonda is doing so much, it's kind of hard to keep up. And so I asked her if she's ever experienced burnout.
I don't think I've ever felt burnout.
Huh.
But maybe I'm just forgetting. I mean, there was a time when I was so hated. That was hard, but I didn't stop. I kept going. I traveled the country with Dick Gregory and some Vietnam veterans. I think I was going through a nervous breakdown because when I turned my head, I felt that my brain stayed right here. And then, it stayed over there. Maybe that was burnout. I don't know. Well, I'm 88, so I have to take care of myself or I'll just drop dead. But I've never been alone. All of my activism has been in the warm embrace of a movement. And then I always have had a team. The teams haven't always been of equal brilliance, but if you're really attacked, you don't want to be alone. And that's why we have to talk now about, and this is the importance of Minneapolis, talk about community. We have to build community. I'm not an organizer. I'm an actor who is an activist. So I need people with me who are organizers. I wanted to be an organizer, and my mentor was Ken Cockrell. He was a Black lawyer, the League of Revolutionary Black Lawyers he founded, and he would send me out with United Auto Workers and I would watch and everything. And one day I said, I'm going to leave Hollywood. I want to be an organizer. And he got mad and he said, Fonda, he said, we have more organizers than we know what to do with. We don't have movie stars. Yeah. You go back to Hollywood and take your career seriously. Put your values into the movies you're making. Do it for real. Commit yourself to it. That had never occurred to me. That was some of the most important words that ever was spoken to me. This is the kind of thing I mean. I've had people who can guide me and advise me. And so I went back and made Coming Home. And then 9 to 5, and then China Syndrome, and on and on.
The people who are in Hollywood, for example, just as one industry, that are afraid of like risking their careers, what do you say to them?
I understand. It is scary. You've got a family to support, and we also have a huge number of rank and file people, union members. They're not famous, but they have families to support. I understand the fear. That's why being with a big group, not being alone,
Mm.
it's like, come for one of us, come for all of us. We have to stand up for each other and protect each other. That's why we're organizing the committee, so people will be safer when they speak out, because speak out we must.
We talk a lot about like the costs of speaking out, but can you talk a little bit more? I know you've already talked about this a little bit, but about what speaking out has given you?
If I'm honest, there's been nothing but benefits. I was a sad little girl that had no meaning in my life. I was pretty boring. I was lonely. I was fucked up. When I became an activist, almost immediately, everything changed. I mean, look, I'm somebody who just when I become, it's like 100%. That became my life. I didn't dabble. So, it's different for everybody, but I had meaning.
Mm.
I had a reason for getting up in the morning.
Mm.
My friends became totally different. My friends they were all people who they could have run Harvard, they could have run some corporation. They were so smart, but they had chosen to do this work, in this particular case, organizing soldiers. Not, they didn't earn money doing it. They didn't become famous doing it. They were organizing soldiers to end a war.
Mm.
Ah, I was like, oh my God, this has been possible all along, and I just didn't realize it. And I went for a long time where I couldn't get work. But I was married to Tom Hayden. You should have seen how we lived. I didn't have a washing machine. I mean, I went to laundromats. It was very Spartan. I borrowed $40,000 from my dad, bought our house for $40,000. And I guess I could have borrowed more money from him, but I didn't want to. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do this. It was great. I did it. It was fine. It was the happiest time my kids ever had.
It makes me think about the past few years that I've been on my journey, and I woke up every morning knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And the one thing was make this the best TV show that you can possibly make. You are an artist, and this is what you were born to do. And then we finished it, and now we're doing this podcast and just figuring out what is next. What is the next thing?
When you talk about your journey, can you just briefly tell me what you mean?
Sure. I work at NorCal Public Media. And we just made this Emmy-winning TV show, Climate California. They're essentially stories about hope on climate, from oil activists to people protecting the trees.
So you're using all the forms of your art and communication skills. I mean, now is the time. This is the moment. This is when we have to leave our neutrality behind. Anything that's holding us back, we have to leave behind. And find the way that's right for you, because it's different for everybody, but don't do it alone. Find a way to make your voice heard. If you don't do that, here's the thing, you won't do it because you're afraid. Fear is fleeting. Regret is forever. If you don't stand up now, you will die regretting it. I think about this a lot because I'm 88 years old and I'm going to die soon. But that's it. Thank you for your time, Charles. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for your time, Jen. I hope that I will, in the next few decades, be as passionate and as courageous as you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing your art.
Thanks for joining us on A Fighting Chance. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, check out our TV series, Climate California, and connect with us on social media. Until next time, watch Jane's newest film, Gaslit. It just might light you up. A Fighting Chance is a production of NorCal Public Media's Center for Environmental Reporting. This episode is produced by senior producer and editor Taylor Kaufman, executive producers Darren Michelle and Nathan Toby, and me, Charles Lloyd. is edited by Jennifer D. Filippo and myself, and filmed by Michael Field, Hannah Lee, Jeremy Ju, Anna Loy, and Brittany Hernandez. Original music by Miguel Brierly. Talent booking and marketing support by Jessica Pilot, Kristen Hayford, and Shimei Saunders. Artwork by Ashley Wittenborn with photography by Michael Field. Our digital content manager is Kelly Olson. Our head of TV is Paul Swenson. For a full list of credits, go to afightingchancepod.org.